Imagine a 10-year-old girl living in a cold castle in the middle of Castile. Her father has died. Her mother is losing her mind. Her older brother takes the throne, but he wants nothing to do with her. She has no allies, no money, no power. No one, absolutely no one, expects anything from her. And yet that girl is going to change everything. She will conquer a throne that wasn't meant for her, win a war against half of Europe, complete an 800-year enterprise, and finance the most important voyage in history. And on her deathbed, she will dictate words that, 400 years later, are still revolutionary. This is the story of Isabel of Castile. Isabel is born on April 22, 1451, in Madrigal de las Altas Torres. She is the daughter of King Juan II of Castile, but she is not the heir. Her half-brother Enrique will take the throne. When Isabel is 3 years old, her father dies, and she is sent to the castle of Arevalo. There, her tutor, Gonzalo Chacon, teaches her what she will need someday. Study, Your Highness, because someday you will need everything you know. At the age of 13, she enters a game of intrigue. The Castilian nobility organizes the farce of Avila, where they symbolically depose Enrique and proclaim Isabel's brother, Alfonso, as king. But in 1468, Alfonso dies, probably poisoned, at the age of 15. The nobles go after Isabel. They want to make her queen. They believe she will be manageable. You must be our queen. I will not accept the crown while my brother Enrique is alive. At 17 years old, she rejects the crown, but she forces Enrique to agree to the Pact of the Bulls of Guisando. She will be the legitimate heir. In exchange, she agrees not to marry without the king's permission, and that's exactly what she is going to do. Isabel has chosen Fernando, the heir to the throne of Aragon, a marriage that would unite the two great kingdoms of the peninsula. The wedding is organized in absolute secrecy. Fernando leaves Zaragoza disguised as a servant, with only 6 men traveling at night to avoid Enrique's patrols. On October 19, 1469, they get married in Valladolid. She is 18 years old, and he is 17. Since they are cousins, they need a papal dispensation. They present a bull from Pope Calixtus III, which does not apply to their case. The legitimate bull, granted by Sixtus IV, will not arrive until 1472 through Cardinal Rodrigo Borgia. But by then, the marriage is already a done deal. Enrique, furious, once again declares his daughter Juana as heir.
Absurdo!
Isabel has gained a husband, but she has lost her peace. On the night of December 11, 1474, Enrique IV dies in Madrid. His will mysteriously disappears. Isabel is in Segovia. Fernando is in Zaragoza, hundreds of kilometers away. What Isabel does in the following hours shows what she is made of. She organizes a solemn funeral for Enrique IV at the Church of San Martin. She attends dressed in mourning, but when she leaves, she takes off the black clothes. Underneath, she is wearing a ceremonial queen's gown. A solemn procession forms from the Alcazar. Isabel rides a palfrey, and in front of her, Gutierrez de Cardenas carries the unsheathed sword of justice.
Queen, owner of these kingdoms, Castile by King Don Fernando and Queen Doña Isabel. Queen, owner of these kingdoms.
Isabel has proclaimed herself queen without waiting for Fernando. The sword of justice has walked before a woman in the 15th century that is unprecedented. Fernando arrives outraged. Is arbitration needed to resolve the crisis? The Concord of Segovia of 1475. Isabel is the reigning queen. Fernando will govern with her. From that day on, all documents will say the king and the queen. But proclaiming herself queen is not enough. She has to win the crown. The supporters of Juana la Beltraneja ally themselves with Portugal. Does the War of Succession break out? Isabel doesn't stay in a castle. She organizes the rear guard and supplies the army. In 1476, Fernando wins at Toro.
En 1479,
The Treaty of Alcáçovas puts an end to the war. Isabel and Fernando are recognized as the monarchs of Castile, and that same year, Fernando inherits Aragon. What Isabel does, starting in 1479, is transform a chaotic kingdom into a modern state. The roads of Castile are lawless, so Isabel creates the Holy Brotherhood, a permanent police force that patrols the roads and pursues crime. It is the first rural police force in Europe, and it works within a few years. Chroniclers already mention that you can travel at night through Castile without fear.
No noble is above the law. The peasant has the same rights as the duke.
Before the Queen's justice, she establishes chanceries so that any subject can appeal to royal justice. She reorganizes the treasury, promotes culture, and supports Luisa de Medrano as a professor in Salamanca. And in 1492, Antonio de Nebria presents her with the first grammar of a modern European language. On January 2nd, 1492, Boabdil hands over the keys to Granada. The peninsula is now Christian after 800 years. Isabel has been present in the campaign from the beginning. When the camp of Santa Fe burns, she orders it to be rebuilt in stone. That city still exists today. That same year, Isabel supports a Genoese navigator, Christopher Columbus, who wants to reach Asia by sailing west.
If he's right, we will have opened a route to the other side of the world. If he's wrong, there's only Musi and
We will only have risked 3 ships. On October 12, 1492, 3 caravels arrive at an unknown continent. And here comes what almost nobody knows. Already in 1493, before any news of abuses arrives, Isabel includes in the instructions for Columbus's second voyage an explicit order that the Indians be treated with care and good love. She doesn't just react when there's a scandal, she anticipates it, but the scandal still comes. Likewise, Columbus begins to send enslaved Indians to Spain to sell them. According to the chronicles, Isabel's reaction is swift.
Who has given Columbus permission to hand out my subjects to anyone?
In June of 1500, she signs a royal decree ordering the immediate release of all the Indians brought as slaves and their return to America. She declares the indigenous people subjects of the crown with the same rights as any Castilian. It is the first time in history that a European sovereign recognizes rights for the inhabitants of a newly discovered territory. The last years are Calvary. In 1497, her only son, Prince Juan, dies. In 1498, her firstborn dies. In 1500, her grandson, Miguel, who was destined to unite Castile, Aragon, and Portugal, dies. And her daughter, Juana, the heiress, shows signs of melancholy that worry her mother, Isabel. she bears it all. On November 23, 1504, 3 days before her death, she adds a codicil to her will, and what she writes there is an extraordinary document.
And do not allow or permit the Indians, neighbors, and inhabitants of those islands, and the mainland, conquered and yet to be conquered, let them not suffer any harm to their persons or property, but rather order that they be well and justly treated, and if they have suffered any harm, let it be remedied.
The laws of Burgos of 1512 will recognize the freedom of the indigenous people. The new laws of 1542 will definitively prohibit the enslavement of the Indian. Isabel dies on November the 26th, 1504 in Medina del Campo. She is 53 years old. She is buried in Granada, the city she conquered. Think about what Isabel did. When people talk about the great queens of history, they mention Isabel I of England, Catherine the Great of Russia, or Cleopatra. But Isabel transformed a chaotic kingdom into the world's first superpower. She completed the conquest of the peninsula, financed the discovery of America. She created the first legal framework for indigenous rights in history and laid the foundations for what a century later would be called the Law of Nations. Isabel de Castile rarely appears on those lists, and she should be at the top of them. Thank you for watching the video. If you think this story deserves to be told, subscribe and share this video. Because if we don't tell our story, no one will do it for us, for you.